Welcome into today's episode. We are going to bring you a 2026 Dynasty rookie mock draft. We're doing Superflex, no tight end premium in this league. The college football landscape is closing out now. We have just the national championship game between Miami and Indiana to go. Some great playoff games there down the straight stretch, great bowl games. And now that we have a great sense of who has declared for the NFL draft, who's going back to school, these mock drafts are really going to tighten up. So today, Joe and I are going to bring this video. We're going to do 2 rounds, and I'm going to get it started off here with the 101, and I am taking Jeremiyah Love. I think Jeremiyah Love is going to be the number one pick in a lot of leagues. We have some really good wide receivers, a really good quarterback or two early in these drafts, but Jeremiyah Love to me stands above the rest. He has had an exceptional season for Notre Dame, but if you look at him, he is 6 foot, 214 pounds is what they have him listed at. Great running back size, and he's really a do it all back. I have him in the same tier as I had Genty coming into the season last year after his exceptional season, and that's the kind of high regard that I have for Love. Over 1,300 yards, almost 1,400 yards. He has back-to-back seasons of really high production. He's in the top five among the Power Four running backs in pretty much every category in this class. An exceptional pass catcher, probably the best pass catcher declaring in this class. Breaks tackles an exceptional rate, has great between the tackles power as a runner, and explosiveness on the outside to beat guys into the second level. There's really nothing I think Jeremiyah Love can't do. And given the weakness at running back in this class, the lack of depth at running back, I think that the positional advantage of having Love here at the 101 is just too much to pass up.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Love is one of those can't miss prospects. I think we had, obviously a super strong running back class a year ago. This one comparatively not as deep, not as strong, but you still have that top standalone running back prospect in Love that, amazing speed, good after contact, basically just a super well-rounded prospect that's going to make waves at the next level. With my first pick, I'm going to go with my 101 by just a hair. That's Jordyn Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State. It wasn't the perfect year statistically for Tyson. That's no secret. Sam Levitt, Arizona State's quarterback, went down with an injury midway through the year, and that kind of hurt his statistics down the stretch, but still finished with 61 receptions, 711 receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns during the regular season, not to mention 2.37 yards per route run. When I look at Jordyn Tyson, I see a guy that's a great route runner, just a pure natural separator with great movement skills. He can make corners fall down with his routes. It's all over the film. He is so good at generating separation. Quarterbacks are going to love to have him in their offense. I think he's a true number one receiver. I think he's going to develop into that rather quickly. But just insane movement skills. He can win in every area of the field, short, intermediate, deep. But his route running is just insane, able to generate so many yards away from those defensive backs. And that's exactly what you need on the outside in these modern NFL offenses. He can make contested catches. He has the speed to run deep, an extremely well-rounded receiver prospect. There are a couple really strong receivers I think are going to, if they go on the right track, develop into wide receiver ones next level, specifically 3 guys at the top that everyone kind of interchanges in the rankings that we're going to get to, obviously. But Tyson edges out the rest. He's my 101, but I'm taking him at the 102.
Tyson is, like you said, very well rounded as a prospect. He does a lot of things very well. I don't know if he has some of these other wide receivers have a standout skill that really separates them. I don't know if Tyson has that, but he doesn't really have any big weaknesses in his game. I think there was some discussion about drops earlier in his college career. This season had a very great, reliable season, good hands. Some injury issues is probably the biggest drawback with Tyson, but even that, it hasn't been substantial enough for me to really consider him that injury prone. Good size, too. Just
Mhm.
all around, I like a lot about Tyson's game. Also, probably the only wide receiver among these top three that had an exceptional sophomore season as well coming into this year. So he has more of a track record of multi-year production. But like you said, there's 3 wide receivers in this class. They're pretty interchangeable among a lot of
Mhm.
rankings. So with my next pick, I'm going to go a little different than where I've normally gone. These next two guys are side by side in my rankings. It's a toss up. So I'm going to go with the guy I've talked about less, and that's Carnell Tate here, the wide receiver for Ohio State. Right now, I think he's the odds on favorite to be the number one wide receiver gone in the NFL draft. He's being mocked as high as number four, number five in the draft. So just showing how much value people are placing on Tate right now. 6'3", 195 pounds. He has great size. He's an Ohio State wide receiver. When have they not hit in the last few years? Going back to that Garrett Wilson, JSN, Olave, and then Marv, Egbuka. Just
Yep.
so many good wide receivers coming out of Ohio State. What Carnell Tate does so well is get down the field and make contested catches. It's not that he can't separate; he has good separation metrics as well. Maybe not elite in this class, but he just does so well on these catches down the field that even when they are defended well, he still comes down with the catches consistently. It's an amazing skill. It's an elite skill. I won't shy away from calling that an elite skill of his. And his numbers really back up the efficiency he had while doing this. He was targeted deep down the field quite consistently, had 18 yards per reception on the season. That ranked fourth among Power Four wide receivers in this class. Had the top rank for yards per run, a very important efficiency metric, one of the most predictive for NFL success. So it's not surprising at all that people would have him very high. Something I want to point out is that he had 11 touchdowns on the regular season that ranked first, well, tied for first with a few other receivers among the Power Four receivers on only 44 receptions. That ranks 61st. So just his efficiency of making big plays out of limited opportunity, and that limited opportunity came because he shares the field with Jeremiah Smith, previously shared the field with Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka. So the only hit I have on Tate's profile is he hasn't needed to be that dominant number one guy, and you can make the argument that maybe other people are freeing up space for him. But still, what you see on tape with Tate is undeniable. I think he will transfer very well into the NFL.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people arguing as Carnell Tate being the wide receiver one in this class, which I can't say I necessarily disagree with him. Like I said, those three guys at the top, very close. I definitely expected you to take Makai Lemon here, as I think he's your wide receiver one in this class, correct? Yeah. So I was fully expected to take Carnell Tate with this pick. But no, Tate's a great prospect. Contested catches, like you said. Great speed to get downfield. He can win at every level. Good, strong hands. He's a physical wide receiver, good route runner, a good athlete. So very good pick there with Tate at three. I'm going to go with the guy you didn't pick it for. That's Makai Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. This year's Blitnikoff winner. Obviously led the nation in receiving yards with 1,156 in the regular season. Also had 11 touchdowns. I talked about Jordyn Tyson's movement skills. This guy's on kind of another level with evading tackles, making defenders miss, his route running, his quickness in space. When you think of a true athlete, you think of Makai Lemon. Obviously, the statistics are there. He had 79 catches, third in the nation. Obviously, like I said, the yards were there. 11 touchdowns as well, first in the nation. But the yards per route run, Tate was first in the nation. Well, Makai Lemon was second with 3.13 yards per route run. That's a great efficiency statistic, and he was just absolutely fantastic. 20 forced missed tackles this season, 10 contested catches. We could just go down the list of the stats he's able to put up that are just insane. But the way he moves on film is just otherworldly. He's just a pure athlete that can make defenders miss all day long. He can win downfield on those deep routes because he's got the speed for it. He can fly downfield, but also just in those short area quickness routes, he's so good at that, getting open. So he can be kind of that catch and run type guy, but he can win all over. He's a great prospect.
I have been going back and forth over the last couple weeks. Makai Lemon was my top wide receiver in this class for so long, since preseason of this year. And it hurts me to say that Tate is now neck and neck with him, but that's how good Tate's been. But that's not a hit on Lemon. That's just how good Tate has been. Lemon's been exceptional all season long. Great for that USC team, Bolitnikoff winner, trophy winner for the best wide receiver in college football. There's nothing I can really say against Makai Lemon. I know some people are really worried about the size. I have a little bit less worry there. We actually just posted on the Dynasty channel here the prospect profile for Lemon. So if you want a deeper dive on him, you can check that out. But I don't think that 1, maybe 2 inches smaller than the premier wide receivers in the NFL is going to be the difference between a great wide receiver and a
Yeah.
bust for fantasy. I think that's a little overblown, the size concerns. Getting into the fifth pick here, I think that there's a huge tier break after number 5 in this draft, maybe depending on a certain declare that we'll see in the coming weeks. Fernando Mendoza is my number 5 here. I don't blame people if they can push him up all the way to number 2 in this class because of how dominant he's been on this college football playoff run. Uh, I like to toot my own horn a little bit and say I was high on Mendoza coming into the season after his time at
Yep.
Cal. Definitely wasn't the best system for him, but he showed flashes of what he can do. Obviously, Coach Signetti saw that as well and brought him over to Indiana, and it has been a special season for the two of them there in Indiana on this college football playoff run. During the college football playoffs, Mendoza has more touchdowns than incompletions. That's just how dominant he has been. It has been special. People have been comparing him to Joe Burrow, the way he had that LSU run. Well, the numbers aren't exactly the same. There's been some rule changes in college football that mean that quarterbacks aren't going to have those same statistical profiles as we used to see. I think Mendoza is among the best pocket passers we've seen coming into the NFL in a while. At this point, I have him over where I had Cam Ward last year, and I was very high on Cam Ward. Uh, Takes care of the ball really well, throws it well at all 3 levels of the field. Mendoza's great at targeting players on these back shoulder throws down on the sidelines, something that will translate, I think, very well to the NFL. I don't see any lack of composure in his game, too, a very important thing for a quarterback. I think he's the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. He is a very strong favorite to go to the Raiders now with Genty there, with Bowers there. Depending on what kind of coaching hire we see, I could be moving Mendoza up even higher than this number 5 on my board.
Yeah, I mean that's a great pick. You're right. You were totally correct on Mendoza before the season began. It was a great pick there coming out of Cal, and yeah, Mendoza he's looked fearless this playoff run. Like you said, I think it was 8 touchdowns to 5 incompletions. That ratio may be a little bit off, but that's what I saw last time I checked. That game against Oregon, not to mention the Bama game, but the number 5 seed in Oregon, beating them by 30 plus points. That is just an astounding performance from this offense, specifically Mendoza. Um, when I look at quarterbacks, I want to see a guy that is surgically accurate. He has the arm strength to push it downfield. He doesn't get shaken by a sack or an interception. He can come right back and face pressure and still be accurate and still have a strong performance. Mendoza can get out of the pocket. He can make throws on the run. He's like you said, composed all the time. He is a fantastic quarterback prospect. My number 5 spot as well. So good pick there. I'm going to go into the 6th place pick and take his receiver that I know you are also a huge fan of. That's Elijah Sarratt, wide receiver, of course, out of Indiana. He's had a great playoff run as well, and he's been great all season long. He was one of those JMU guys that Signetti brought with him to this Indiana team that has made them so good, and he has just been automatic. Especially for Mendoza on those back shoulder fade balls, like you were talking about. Sarratt is always the guy catching those. He is so physical at 6'2", 213, able to box out defenders constantly and consistently. We saw a couple reps like that. One against Alabama on a slot fade. He also had a rep where he boxed out an Oregon corner in this past game. So he is extremely physical. Had 650 receiving yards, kind of a modest number, but when you have a lot of receivers involved in that offense, a guy like Omar Cooper Jr. as well, you're not going to get a million receiving yards. 11 touchdowns though, a super big red zone threat. Obviously at that size, he's able to separate in that area, of course. 2.67 yards per route run. With Mendoza at quarterback, he has been absolutely fantastic. A consistent route runner, able to win short, intermediate, deep. Like I've said about a lot of these guys, super deep receiver class. But Mr. Consistent is what I like to call Elijah Sarratt. Every rep, he is able to generate separation, and if he's not, he's able to make a physical catch with his hands. He's a great prospect. I think there's a lot of varied places he could go, and a lot of is he going to be a late first round guy? Is he going to be a second round guy? Could he go to the third round? We're not totally sure where we're going to see him yet. It may depend on how he tests, but I would love to see him slotted in, late day one, early day two, something like that. But I'm excited to see where he goes.
I have very mixed feelings about this Sarratt pick for you. I am very happy to see people getting really on board with Sarratt. I've seen it with some other analysts in the Dynasty community, seeing Sarratt go very high now. But it hurts me because I was hoping to get him in some of my drafts with my late firsts, and that's out the window now. He is a middle of the first round pick, I think. I expect him to be in that Jaden Higgins range of the draft last year, of the NFL draft, that is, like an early second rounder, with a
Yeah,
chance to sneak into the end of the first rounder, especially those teams that will be drafting at the end of the first round, very good playoff teams. I think Elijah Sarratt is a perfect player to slot in to be a number two wide receiver for a great NFL team and make an immediate difference. And that's what I expect to see him do. I'm going to have him pretty high on my redraft rankings. I
yeah.
have him obviously high here in my dynasty rookie rankings. He's just so exciting to watch. The film is great. The stats are great. One thing I want to point out is that for people that just are getting into Surratt this season, which is the majority, yes, he's been used as more of a short area, a lot of slants, some back shoulder, throws down the field a little bit. But where he was used last season was totally different. He was used down the field. He had a high A dot, high yards per reception. I comped him to Terry McLaurin coming into the year because he was used as that X that would stretch the field. Obviously had the good size and strength to catch those contested catches over the middle, but was used more down the field and was very successful tracking the ball down the field. So wherever he goes in the NFL, I think he will be successful. He is multifaceted. He can fit into whatever scheme an offensive play caller asks him to. My next pick, the number seven pick in this draft, I'm going to continue the number of wide receivers we're seeing off the board. It's going to be a trend this year. It's a very deep wide receiver class, and I'm going here with Casey Concepcion, the wide receiver for Texas A&M. The stats aren't quite as good here for Concepcion as some of the others in this class. Ranked 12th in yards over the regular season among the Power Four wide receivers in the class, eighth in touchdowns, 14th in missed tackles, fourth, but sixth in yards per run. He was quite efficient this season. Concepcion had a big following after his freshman year for NC State, had a very good season. The star kind of dulled a little bit in his sophomore season with NC State, but then after his transfer to Texas A&M this season, the excitement is back, at least for me. Watching him on film is where it really shows. I am a big fan of these wide receivers that can do a lot once the ball is in their hands. These yards after the catch receivers. I think they are more valuable in today's NFL than these big deep threat wide receivers, the 6'4" X wide receivers. I think these guys have more fantasy upside with the way NFL defenses are changing. Concepcion is exactly that mold. Absolutely electric after the catch. Makai Lemon is great after the catch, but I'd say Concepcion is even a step above. That's just how good he's been, how electric he can be, super fast. He doesn't have the size. He's listed at 190 pounds. I don't believe that for a second. He'll probably measure more, close to 180 pounds. He's a pretty
Yep.
small wide receiver, small frame, but super special, not just an underneath guy. He succeeds down the field as well, runs deeper routes. He's not just a screen guy, but can be used in that screen role, which I think will help increase his floor in the NFL.
Yeah, Concepcion, one of my favorite players from this past season. I was high on him coming into the year. Once he transferred to Texas Tech, made up maybe one of the best receiver duos in college football with Mario Craver at A&M. They did enough to make it to the college football playoff. Concepcion, like you said, he can find that immediate role at the next level, getting those screens, those routes where he's able to get the yards after the catch. He is so great at that. Such a great athlete. He can also make some ridiculous acrobatic catches downfield that we've seen on film that just leave you with your mouth hanging open because he is just making the most ridiculous catches you've ever seen in your life. He is a great athlete, a great receiver. I'm super high on him. But I am going to take another receiver here, which, I mean, we're just ripping off these receivers. I'm going to go with Denzel Boston, wide receiver out of Washington, who is a lot different of a prospect than Casey Concepcion. Starting off, he is 6'4", 209 pounds, may measure a bit heavier than that, but 6'4" obviously sticks out with that massive frame. And he plays like it. He's able to make those contested catches downfield, boxing out defenders. And he is a very physical wide receiver. Ended up with 755 yards this season and 10 touchdowns. Had a huge bowl game performance this past season to end off the year, including a massive touchdown catch. But he is more than meets the eye. This guy has wheels. I think he's got some underrated speed for his size at 6'4", so he can be that deep threat down the field that can be dangerous in contested scenarios against maybe smaller defenders. Can be a mismatch in press coverage. Like I said, extremely physical at the catch point and at the line of scrimmage. But I think a lot of NFL teams are looking for that physical wide receiver on the outside, the big target that can have the ball just thrown up to them. We've seen it with guys like Michael Pittman, Jaden Higgins, who was drafted last year, guys that are drafted for their size and for their ability in physical situations. Denzel Boston is that and more with his athletic ability. Not the best athlete ever, but he can certainly hold his own with that size. So a good blend of size and athleticism.
Boston is exactly the wide receiver that I think about when it comes down to the Concepcion tier there. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people are going to have Boston over Concepcion. I don't blame them for doing so. I think it just comes down to a philosophy difference of what you think is going to be more successful moving forward in the NFL, these big X wide receivers or the smaller yards after the catch kind of guys. Denzel Boston has all of the traits you want out of that big X wide receiver. Uh, my concerns with him is the way he was used at Washington was almost exclusively as this boundary sideline deep ball kind of guy. He did it extremely well. This guy is highlight play after highlight play on these deep throws down the field. Just he mosses guys consistently. Like big guy, great at boxing people out, high pointing the ball. Very exciting. But I've said it a couple times. I do see that a very likely outcome for him is a Mike Williams, where he gets kind of typecast into that role and just is used that way. I'm not saying that has no fantasy value. Obviously, it has fantasy value. Um, we see it this year with like Quentin Johnson. That's maybe an upside of where that role can go. I just don't see the same upside if he gets typecast into that role that he can be a wide receiver one for fantasy. That's not to say he doesn't have the ability to grow into that role. I think he has the physical traits, the fluidity in his movements to be used in a more well-rounded way. I just didn't see it enough in college to move him too high up my board. But right here, I think that's a great place later in the first round to take a flyer on Boston and that upside. I'm going to go away from the wide receivers here for a second, finally, after a big run on them. And I'm going to go with someone that's probably the biggest question mark in this draft class still, and that's Dante Moore, the quarterback for Oregon, because he hasn't decided yet whether he's going to declare for the NFL draft or go back to college. At this before this last game against Indiana in the college football playoffs, it seemed like it was leaning more towards people were expecting him to declare for the draft, but a pretty disastrous game against Indiana has people thinking that maybe he will be going back to Oregon for another season before entering the NFL draft. I'd call it a 50-50 shot right now, so I'm going to still talk about him, include him in the draft here, but don't be surprised if a week or two from now we hear that he's going back to Oregon. I'll just say that game against Indiana, those were probably Moore's only two bad games of the season were both against Indiana. And I think that says more about Indiana than it says about Dante Moore. That Indiana team is unreal. They're were you going to take a hit on a quarterback for playing poorly against a Nick Saban Alabama team? Probably not. That was just the expectation. I think that's what this Indiana team is for the future. Dante Moore looks extremely poised back in the pocket. He's very mobile. He's not a running quarterback per se, but very mobile. able to run, pick up yards, move around in the pocket very well. Super accurate, makes throws at all levels of the field, takes care of the ball. I think the majority of his turnovers on the season ended up being against Indiana after that game. So outside of playing against Indiana, takes care of the ball very well. I will be very excited if Moore does declare for the draft. It's not the deepest quarterback class, but in a super flex league, I think the upside with Moore is just too much to deny at this stage in your rookie drafts.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of your points there. I think after the Indiana game, we were left with more questions than answers with Dante Moore. I think he is a good prospect, but I would like to see him go back for another year at Oregon. We've heard all the reports that scouts are looking for quarterbacks with more starting experience under their belts. That's why we see so many guys transferring for more experience, more starting time, and the but there's the other side of the spectrum where you make it a Drew Aller type thing where he comes back and completely lowers his stock. But to be fair, I think Oregon has a much better supporting cast ready for Dante Moore coming back than Penn State did for Aller. But no, I think Moore's a good prospect. I think he is more than what this game showed against Indiana. I would like to see him come back, but if he declares, I think he could still be a very high first round pick and have a lot of NFL success if things break the right way. So I agree. With my next pick, I'm going to go with another Oregon guy. This is my top tight end in the draft. I think it's a top tight end for a lot of guys. I think it could be a first round pick. That's Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end for the Oregon Ducks. Just a physical monster at 6'3", 245 pounds. Not the heaviest tight end in the world, obviously, but when you're just an insane receiver, you're not going to be. We saw how much of an impact. I mean, they're not the same prospect, but Harold Fannin had a huge impact as one of those lighter tight ends this year. Rookie tight ends as a whole have been just insane the last couple of seasons. I think Sadiq could follow that trend. You think of a guy that can make the ridiculous catches, can dive for the football, can make defenders miss constantly. Had several forced missed tackles this year, charted by PFF. But he's so good after the catch. He can hurdle defenders. He can break tackles. He's fast. He can separate from defenders. He can also block as well. So he's not going to be leaving the field constantly. I don't think his whole role is going to be blocking the next level. He's not the most traditional tight end, but he does fit that more modern tight end mold of he's built to be a receiver. He can play in line or on the power slot role like a lot of tight ends are now. So just a ridiculous athlete. Had 8 receiving touchdowns this year, so a huge threat in that area of the field in the red zone, but just able to generate separation at a really insane rate at the tight end position, and I'm excited to see where he goes. I think he could be a first rounder.
I'm entirely torn on Sadiq because on film I see some really great things, but he just doesn't have the volume. He doesn't have those big games production wise for me to really buy in as him being this dominant tight end of the future. Obviously, we're not talking about Brock Bowers or Loveland
Yeah,
Warren from last year. He's not going to have that draft capital most likely, and he doesn't have that level of production. But when it comes to pure athleticism, he has every bit of it. It looks like Kyle Pitts back in his days in college and what made people so excited. But kind of like Pitts, there's some questions about the production and how that will translate into the NFL. I think it leaves me in a spot where it's going to come down to landing spot in the NFL. If he gets first round draft capital and goes to the Chiefs or the Broncos, the Kelsey replacement or the Sean Payton weapon at the tight end spot, then I will be super high on him. I'll move him up into the middle of the first. Uh, any other team, I think I'm probably back of the first, maybe even early second with Sadiq, just because I'm not 100% there on the production. With my 11th, well, with our 11th pick here, my last pick of the first round, I'm going to finally get the RB2 off the board. I said earlier, running back is not the deepest in this class. It's really a one running back class with Love. I got Love. Now I'm going to get his backfield mate from college, and that's Jadarian Price, the other Notre Dame running back. I think he's the RB2 in this class. I think that Notre Dame had the top 2 running backs in this NFL draft. People have talked about Price and Love as the Montgomery and Gibbs, or whatever pairing you want to call them. Price was definitely used in a different way than Love, and we saw it in his lack of pass catching. He really wasn't used as a pass catcher at all, only 6 receptions on the season, but his rushing production was great. Obviously, didn't have the same volume because he was playing behind Jeremiyah Love, But when he got the ball, he was exceptional. There were times when I thought he was just as good of a rusher as Jeremiyah Love was on the season. Maybe a slower back half of the season, but still looked great on film. Jadarian Price breaks tackles so well. He's very hard to bring down. People usually refer to him as the lightning in this backfield, but I see just as much thunder as lightning in both
Mhm.
of them. Price has track speed, but you just look at him, 5'11", 210 isn't huge, but he is built extremely strong. He does a lot of good things getting to the outside, shedding tackles and getting into the end zone. It's something he did consistently all season. Was top 10 in touchdowns on the season for power four running backs in this class, despite not having the highest volume, having a pretty low relative volume there. So I think Jadarian Price has all of the upside to be a starter in the NFL year one, especially in a weaker class. So I am happy here to take him at the back half of the first round.
Yeah, that's he's my RB2 as well. Out of that Notre Dame backfield, I was between him and Sadiq on that last pick, and if you didn't take him there, I was certainly going to take him here. He is such a great, well-rounded prospect. The only complaint you can have is that maybe he's not used in the passing game very much. But I mean, you're entirely on the point there with they describe it as thunder and lightning, but he is both thunder and lightning. Both those guys in that backfield have been so well rounded. Price so good in space. He has so much speed to make defenders miss, but he is so powerful on the ground as well, physically punishing. He's a fantastic prospect and certainly worthy of a high pick. Great pick there. I'm going to go with another wide receiver. I just keep taking receivers here. We got Jacoby Lane, wide receiver out of USC, a guy that's really risen up my board as I've gone over more of his film. And he's kind of a similar mold to Denzel Boston, but honestly, maybe even a little bit more upside than Boston when you look at it. 6'4", 200 pounds. He recorded 750 yards and 4 touchdowns while sharing the field with Makai Lemon this season at USC. That's something to take into consideration. And if you look up Jacoby Lane's name on YouTube, I guarantee one of the first things you're going to see is a ridiculous highlight, contested catch where he's boxing out a defender, making a one-handed catch in the end zone, and one of the best catches you've ever seen in your life. That is like a lot of times if you just throw him up the ball, he's going to make a ridiculous catch with a defender draped all over, and that's the type of player he is. He can make all the contested catches in the world. Made 11 of them this year, charted by PFF, but just insane physical ability to box out receivers. Uses that massive frame to get up and high point the football. Great hands, can make all kinds of one-handed catches if he needs to. But he's more than just meets the eye with that. He has the speed to beat defenders deep, to be that deep threat. But not only that, he can catch and run. You may not think that at 6'4", 200, but when he gets the ball in his hands over the middle, he can absolutely outspeed some defenders and cause some bad angles. He can definitely make some yards for himself, get some yards after the catch. And I was very impressed when I looked over his film that he is more well-rounded than I thought after I just saw some of his crazy highlight plays. So Jacoby Lane quickly rising up my board. I think he could certainly be a first-round type player in rookie drafts, depending on where he lands. One of my favorite prospects in this draft, able to be so good while sharing the field with one of the best prospects in Lemon, as we took earlier. So I'm super excited to see where Lane lands.
Lane was super fun to watch. This whole USC offense was really fun to watch. I had a great time watching USC games this season. And Lane, his ability when you throw up the ball, there were a lot of times where it seemed like the offense was, can I get the ball to Lemon quickly? No,
Mm-hmm.
he's double covered. Throw it up one on one to Lane. And that was
Yep.
that was the offense at times. Because Lane was so good at it, he was just very consistent in boxing guys out, high pointing these balls. Had a lot would have had a lot more too if it weren't for the amount of pass interference calls he drew against him, because of how much defenders just knew that he was going to do that to them. Uh, I have some worries from a fantasy perspective around his separation. A lot of those contested catches happened because he wasn't able to gain a whole lot of separation. He has good athleticism, like you said. He is fast, but I just don't know if the route running is there yet to gain that separation, especially at the next level. Still, if you're a great contested catch player like that, I think the floor is pretty high for Lane. And if he can build on his game, improve that route running, which is definitely possible at the next level, I think he's someone that could really grow into a bigger role in year three, year four in the NFL, even if he doesn't break out quite as much as a rookie. If you're liking this content, it means that you are like us. You are into these rookies early on, and we are creating content exactly for you. We already have our 2026 Dynasty Rookie Guide posted. All you have to do is go into our Patreon. We have a free trial, so no strings attached. You go ahead and get that for free. Take a look at all the prospects that we're breaking down. Over 40 prospects in there. We're going to continue to update that over the off season. And if you like our content here on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. We're going to keep bringing you more rookie content all off season long. With my pick, I'm going to continue my run of running backs. I might get all the running backs in this class, maybe in this draft. I don't know. But I'm going to go a little different than consensus here and take Mike Washington Jr., the Arkansas running back. He's someone who a few weeks into the season really came into focus for me and just I couldn't stop pushing him up my board. I had him as a third rounder, moved him up to a second rounder. Now he's like a fringe first rounder for me with what he did on the season. A lot of people aren't going to get around on Washington because he played for a bad Arkansas team, didn't have a whole lot of scoring opportunities, and he is a fifth year college player, 23 years old. He will be one of the older players entering the draft this year. Transferred around at some smaller schools. Never had really a huge breakout, had some good flashes, but then his transfer to Arkansas, he was just incredible this season. Over 1,000 yards, ranked sixth in yards per attempt among Power Four running backs, seventh in yards after contact per attempt. He was incredible as a rusher, 6.4 yards per attempt. That's just great numbers. He's also 6'2", 228 pounds. This guy looks like a Derrick Henry kind of build out there. He is just huge, but it doesn't mean he doesn't have the athleticism, the fluidity. He moves super well on the field. If anything, I would say he lacks a little bit in the strength that he runs with for his size, but absolutely makes up for it with his fluidity, his ability to make guys miss with his elusiveness. Washington is someone I'm going to have higher than consensus all offseason. I know it. I am very excited about his ability coming into the NFL.
Yeah, he's a guy that drastically improved his stock this year. A ridiculous blend of speed and size and power at that. But I think you're right to have him as a guy trending up. I don't have him quite that high, but he is in my top 24. But I think that's a good pick there. Don't be afraid to pick your guys against consensus. Always take the best player available you think. With my next pick, I'm going to finally get a running back, and that's Jonah Coleman, a guy that I seem to get in every single draft, running back out of Washington. This dude, I'll say it again, built like a bowling ball at 5'9", 220 pounds, and he plays like it. He is so good at bouncing off tackles. He's been a workhorse in the past, but a big tackle breaker, but also if he makes a cut, if he makes that one cut, he could be gone. He has underrated speed and acceleration. Once he gets an open lane, he's able to create that with some ridiculous cutbacks. But again, just a really physical runner of the football, and that showed with the 14 rushing touchdowns he accumulated this year at Washington. He is that goal line back. When I look at the way he plays, I don't think it's an exact one for one, but the comp I sort of think of is Jaylen Warren, a guy that can be pretty punishingly physical. He's a shorter, stout running back, but can also fly when he gets the lane. That's kind of the comp I see. And also, Coleman was extremely involved as a pass catcher this year, over 300 receiving yards, which in college is a pretty good indicator that he'll be involved early on in the NFL level. If he gets in the backfield that maybe doesn't have a clear cut starter, I think he could certainly push for reps early on because of his physicality. He's had that workhorse volume before, which you can say, sure, he's got tread in his he has got tread in his tires, but he has experience taking a bunch of carries in the game like he did at Washington. So, a player that I've kind of been decently high on throughout this whole process. Haven't moved him a ton throughout my rankings, but I think this is a decent spot to take him.
I've been routinely a little lower on Coleman, especially compared to you, but I do see the upside there. I can't deny that. The pass catching ability this year was great. He has 2 years now of good pass catching production. That bodes very well for his NFL projections, especially for fantasy. if he can continue that pass catching ability. Over the back half of the season, he did struggle with some injuries. So if you do take a look at his stats over the second half of the year, they're not going to look good. Uh, a lot of that was the injury factor, trying to play through injury. Also, some of it just some efficiency issues where I kind of worry about him as a pure rusher, but still with that pass catching upside. For fantasy, I have no issues in a weaker running back class having him there early to mid in the second round to take a flyer on. Moving over now to the 15th pick in this draft, the third of the second round. I'm going with Ty Simpson, the quarterback for Alabama. Now, there's a lot of holes in Simpson's profile, but this is a super flex draft. So in super flex, these quarterbacks can be super important, and I think Ty Simpson has all of the potential to be a really good starting NFL quarterback. There were a lot of struggles over the second half of the college season, a lot of up and downs throughout the season, and that's kind of expected from a first year starter in college, and that's exactly what Ty Simpson was. I am not a fan of quarterbacks coming into the NFL with only 1 year of starting experience. It normally doesn't work well. The NFL has not been good at developing quarterbacks once they get there. It's more an expectation for you to be productive right away. Look at JJ McCarthy, the way he's being treated as a guy who's younger than a lot of players in this class, even still. Ty Simpson, though, now that he isn't in that top five conversation, now that he's looking as a late first, probably second round pick, I think he has a much better chance of going to a situation where he can develop behind a veteran starter. The perfect position here, the dream landing spot would be the Rams behind Stafford. Learn from Stafford, learn from McVay, get the reps as a backup there in practice before year two, year three, making the move to a starting role. I think that would be perfect. I would be more than happy to spend an early to mid second in my rookie drafts on Stafford's successor, especially with the upside that I think Simpson still has.
Yeah, Simpson definitely worth a pick, especially in Superflex. Always getting that quarterback value. I think that was a pretty smart pick for you there. A guy that has the high ceiling. We saw the very high highs this season in college football. Able to throw his receivers open, make some plays on the run. Able to look like a really good athlete at times, but also, the criticism, struggled against pressure, got benched in that last game against Indiana, which of course it was a blowout, so it kind of made sense. But yeah, the 1 year starter knock on him as well. There's a variety of ways it could go down, but yeah, depending on landing spot, could be a really great pick for you there. I'm going to go ahead and go back to wide receiver, and this is a guy that I'm not totally sure where he's going to go. He was getting some first round buzz until he tore his ACL, unfortunately, late in the college season. That's Chris Bell, wide receiver out of Louisville. This dude is a freak athlete. 6'2", 220, right? You expect a big, physical, slow receiver on the outside. This dude is a speedster as well. He can fly downfield, an unbelievable blend of that size at 6'2", 220, and that speed, the quickness that he can just dart downfield, be a huge downfield threat. Recorded 917 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns this season, 2.55 yards per route run. And just look at these games he had. Against the Miami Hurricanes, who are playing in the national championship, 9 catches for 136 yards, 2 touchdowns. Virginia, who was playing in the ACC championship game, 12 catches, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns. 135 yards and a touchdown against Pitt. Just some monster games he was putting up with his ridiculous athleticism, able to make defenders miss, ridiculous change of direction, a crazy evasiveness for his size. And he was getting mocked to the end of the first round, I saw, until, of course, his ACL tech came out, which I think he'd still be worth that pick. He's a young receiver. If he rehabs the injury correctly, his trajectory could still be through the roof. He's an upside pick for me, a ceiling pick. If he works out, great. If he doesn't, I'm still picking him in the second round here, but a guy I'm a big fan of.
I've been consistently lower than consensus on Bell. I expect I still will. I have him as a late second rounder now for these dynasty drafts. That's not saying that I don't see what other people are seeing. That speed and size combination is outrageous. It is great. You love to see it. And he did some special things in college. Physical receiver, fast after the catch. Where I struggle to project him into the NFL is, first of all, his lack of separation, and that's really because of his lack of fluidity that I see. He's a big receiver who's fast, but it doesn't mean he's quick. It doesn't mean he moves extremely well. I think he's kind of rigid as a route runner. I don't see him being very elusive once the ball is in his hands, just strong and fast. At the NFL level, I don't know if that will translate as well. But still, the production was great. I see those elite skills. I just have questions about whether at the NFL
Sure.
level that'll really work out. And now, on top of all that, this injury, I think that's really just dropped him for me. I have a hard time spending more than a late second on him right now, but still very interesting prospect. I'm going to do it just because I've taken so many running backs already. When I said the running back class is kind of weak, I'm going to go with another one. And this time I'm going with Emmett Johnson out
Mm.
of Nebraska. Uh, his production this season was just outrageous, actually. It was had over 1,400 yards, first in the class in rushing yards. Had the most missed tackles in the class, the most receptions in the class. He was a good pass catcher as well. He was pretty much just this entire Nebraska offense in one. Emmett Johnson was. Now, when you watch him on film, I'm less excited. It's really a production based profile. On film, it looks like there's a lack of elite speed there for someone who's only about 200 pounds. There's not elite strength, obviously, because he is that size. So, that physicality, that lack of elite athleticism might be a limiting factor at the NFL level, but I could absolutely see him working into an offense where he has a significant role, especially maybe a number two that has high upside if the guy ahead of him goes down. And at this stage of the draft, once you get into the middle of the second round of your rookie drafts, that's really what you're asking for running backs, guys that have a chance, that have some upside, not guaranteed hits. And that's what I see with Emmett Johnson. He's shown enough production that I'm not going to think too hard about what I see on film. If he can do that at the college level, I'll take a bet on it at the NFL level.
Yeah, Emmett Johnson, good pick there. I think we're getting into these upside picks in the second round, reaching for the ceiling players. I think he kind of represents, as well as Bell, represents the philosophy of just take good football players. You don't have to overthink it all the time. Emmett Johnson recorded a billion yards from scrimmage. Got Nebraska hyping him up for the Heisman race. Was ridiculously involved as a runner and a receiver. I think that is the perfect upside pick. Obviously, my knock on him is maybe the lack of speed and athleticism. But when you have that much production, like you said, it's hard not to project you to have at least a role at the NFL level. I think it could end up being a pretty solid running back. I'm going to go ahead and cover my bases here on tight end and grab Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt, another one of these hyper receiver tight ends that are kind of built for that modern mold. He's 6'4", 235 pounds, so a very light prospect, but he can block. He's certainly capable of it. But looking at the receiving stats, led all tight ends in yards with 769. Had 62 receptions as well, which was second. 4 receiving touchdowns, 2.55 yards per route run, 6 contested catches, all over the board. Great statistically. He's a very good route runner, great at generating separation. And I think pairing him with Sadiq, I kind of have my boom and bust guy with Sadiq that could be drafted really high, and then Stowers, a guy that's been respected for a couple of years now as a very good receiving tight end. I think he can fit into, depending on the landing spot, an NFL offense seamlessly. Great route runner, great hands, pretty sure hands, not a lot of drops, and I'm very sure that Stowers can end up being a pretty solid NFL tight end.
I like Stowers. Stowers is a good tight end this year for Vanderbilt. He's a former quarterback as well, so kind of explains that smart play style he has, that ability to find areas in the zone, something that can be
Yep.
very valuable for tight ends and get them a lot more volume than other tight ends. Even if he doesn't have the absolute elite athletic profile, he is a good athlete, and with that intelligence on the field, I think he's someone that could actually absolutely be a starting tight end in the NFL, and one who is a good friend of a quarterback, finding those places in the zone. I'm going to take another wide receiver here, another Indiana wide receiver in Omar Cooper Jr. Uh, he is someone that I think is maybe one of the last guys on the board that has an elite skill at the wide receiver position. And that is his ability to break tackles. He has contact balance. He is really hard to bring down. He was a slot receiver for Indiana this year, but 6 foot, 204 pounds. He played outside last year. So the slot is not where he has to play at the NFL level. His ability after the catch was incredible this season. Did a whole lot for this Indiana offense. They do spread the ball around a lot outside of Cooper and Sarratt, especially as the season went on, and we
Yep.
saw some guys, Charlie Becker break out. So his stats maybe not the most impressive, but still he was another one of those receivers that had 11 touchdowns on the season, first among the Power Four wide receivers, tied among those, but also those 24 missed tackles. That was second most among Power Four wide receivers this season. Just shows how great he can be after the catch. And I think he has a lot of versatility coming into the NFL.
Yeah, Cooper's a guy I have ranked pretty similarly to you. I think he can find a role pretty early on. From the slot, he can catch those screens, but also a deep threat, a good route runner, crazy body control, like we saw with that Penn State touchdown, the game winner. That was so incredible. I'm going to keep on our run of receivers and go Germie Bernard, wide receiver out of Alabama, a guy I've been interested in since last season. Really stepped up. Ryan Williams had a tough year in his sophomore season, and Germie Bernard really emerged as this wide receiver one for the Alabama Crimson Tide with Ty Simpson under center. Bernard recorded 700 receiving yards in the regular season, and is really as well balanced a prospect, I think, as they come at wide receiver. He's a pretty solid route runner. He can make some good contested catches, some solid speed. I just think he does everything pretty well, a jack of all trades. You maybe a knock on him is that he doesn't stand out in any specific area. Well, I don't think he really lacks in any specific area either. Just a pretty solid receiver, I think, could develop over time into a pretty steady contributor for an NFL offense. But had some really great plays in the college football playoff. Some crazy contested catches. I think there was one against Oklahoma. I think it was that just made a ridiculous catch that just jaw dropping catch. But I think he's a pretty good prospect, a guy that I think he's got a pretty high floor, but not the greatest ceiling in the world either. He's not a freak athlete or anything like that, but could be a solid player.
Absolutely, I agree with your assessment on Bernard. He's someone that I think could slot into a wide receiver two role in the NFL. Not going to be the dominant number one for any team. I've seen the Falcons as a landing spot. I think that's a great
Mm,
one. I know they have a
yeah,
lack of draft capital this year, but him alongside Drake London kind of take over that Darnell Mooney role on the outside. I think that would be a great fit for him, and would definitely rise him up boards for me if he went there. I'm going to move over and take my first tight end, our third tight end off the board in this draft, and that is Michael Trigg, the tight end for Baylor. Trigg moved around a little bit, had a really big expectations on him early in his college career, had some issues that led to that falling off a little bit, but his last season here at Baylor, once transferring to Baylor, very good. Ranked top five in pretty much every statistical category for tight ends among the Power Four tight ends. Had a the most yards per reception, 13.9, and that is just showing how much he was used down the field. He's not the tight end that's going to play in line a whole lot. He doesn't have terrible size. He's 6'4", 240. I think he even looks a little bigger than that, but he plays more as a very big outside wide receiver. Some of the highlights you'll see from him are just incredible down the field, making contested catches, moves extremely fluidly. I think he has very good hands. I know PFF marked him with some drops that has people talking about he has bad hands. I went back and looked at that. Those were not drops, most of them. I don't think his hands are bad. That was a little harsh on those drop calls, but Michael Trigg, he's my wide receiver running. Or I don't know what position he plays. He's my tight end two in this class. I think the athleticism, the upside there as a receiver on the outside, if he goes to the right spot, he could be a special talent.
Yeah, Trigg was my pick if you didn't pick him there. A great talent out of Baylor, physical receiver, can make some crazy catches, can play that power slot role. I think he's going to be a good NFL tight end. I have him just behind Stowers for my tight ends, but good pick there. Next up here, I'm going to do the thing I have to do it every single time we do a mock draft. I'm going to take Antonio Williams in the back of the second round, wide receiver out of Clemson. I know it was a disaster train wreck year for the Clemson Tigers. And I think a part of the reason they got off to such a slow start on offense was because Antonio Williams was hurt for the first couple of weeks of the season after he injured himself in that LSU opening game. Still managed to record 611 yards, 4 touchdowns. Down the stretch was pretty dang good on a game-to-game basis. 142 yards and touchdown against Duke. Pretty consistent over all the games he played this season. But when we look at the film, I think it's better. You can look at the 2025 film. He was good this season when on the field, but 2024 was the film I just fell in love with him. A really masterful route runner, great at generating separation. He can climb the ladder as well and some contested catches. He may be 5'11", 190 on his listed size, but he plays way bigger than that at the catch point, can make some insane contested catches over some bigger corners. He can fly downfield. He's got great speed, but again, the route running is just what sells it for me. He is so good at generating separation with short area quickness down the field with those longer routes, those deeper routes. He's got the deep speed required. So I think everything went wrong for Clemson this year. I think the one thing that can go right is Antonio Williams. Antonio Williams developing into a good NFL receiver. I'm still willing to take the shot on him here, despite the fact that it was kind of a disaster year for Clemson.
Absolutely agree with you on everything there. I like Antonio Williams still. I think he could be a solid, probably a third round selection in the NFL draft, a really good slot receiver at the next level, someone that could just slide in very cleanly into an NFL offense, maybe go a little bit under the radar, but be a solid producer, especially in your PPR leagues. Even his quarterback, Cade Klubnik, I'm probably still higher on him than a lot of people. I don't think we'll see him drafted here in our last couple picks, but he's definitely a third rounder,
Yep.
a prospect that could fit in there. And if he goes in the
Yeah,
NFL draft to someone, a team like the Browns or something, where the quarterback spot is still up for grabs, I could see him rise into the second round here.
I agree.
So yeah, that Clemson offense, some sleepers there available. With my last pick of this draft, I there's a lot of guys left on this board. I still think there's good depth in this class. Maybe late in the first round, you see a little bit of a lower skill level than we've seen in some other drafts. But I maintain that the second round is chock full of talent in this draft class. Here, I'm going to go with Chris Brazzell out of Tennessee, wide receiver. Had a really great stretch early, middle of the season. He had over 1,000 receiving yards on the season, fourth among the Power Four wide receivers in this class. 9 touchdowns, over 2.5 yards per hour run, a very good mark. Uh, he was used in a way, and I know Tennessee has this bad reputation for fantasy assets for NFL skill position players. I don't think that Brazzell falls into that as much as some of the running backs have in the past. I think this offense is becoming more of an NFL offense than it used to be, and I think Brazzell will project well into the NFL. He moves very fluidly. He's 6'5", but he has some good route running. I don't think he was used to the best of his ability as a route runner this season in college, but I think he's someone who could develop and be a high riser. The floor is very low with Brazzell. Maybe he's a guy that you're not isn't even on your roster in Dynasty in a couple seasons, but he has that potential to be a very good wide receiver in the NFL. And at the end of the second round, that is absolutely enough for me to take him here.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect pick for the end of the second round. Really boomer bust guy that has that high ceiling. Like you said, I didn't even know he was 6'5". So that's an incredible measurement. Able to be used down the field, extremely productive this year. Very solid pick with Brazzell. He was on my board as well. Um, with I believe this is our last pick in the draft. I think I'm going to go with a quarterback here, one that certainly has risen up the rankings. A guy that was less so on my radar than he is now a week ago. It's Trinidad Chambliss, quarterback out of Ole Miss. The news came out that he just got his waiver denied by the NCAA to come back for another year. And he could certainly be a big time riser in this NFL draft. Had two really impressive games down the stretch against Georgia and Miami. Um, a guy that's great at taking care of the football, only 3 interceptions this year, had 22 passing touchdowns while not even starting the entire season after transferring up from Ferris State in D2. Obviously, Ferris State's a great D2 program. But put Ole Miss in the position to compete for a national championship this season with really a meteoric rise and a breakout under Pete Golding and Lane Kiffin, of course, as well. When you look at Trinidad Chambliss, obviously there's the criticisms that are totally fair. Not a great sample size at a high level. He's a little bit of a smaller quarterback as well. But there's obviously some high ceiling points as well. He's great at creating out of structure. He's got good arm strength. He can move outside the pocket. He's pretty dang accurate as well. So we saw some really good things from Chambliss, and if he rises up, maybe he has a good combine, maybe he goes to the Senior Bowl, is really good there, has a good pre-draft process. We could see him maybe as a day 2 type pick if a team wants to take a shot on the quarterback that they really think could be, the next great improviser quarterback in Chambliss. So especially in Superflex, I'm willing to take the risk on him here in the last pick.
That's a great pick here. He was who I was considering alongside Brazzell with my last pick. He's someone that flew under the radar for me throughout the season. Really came on at the end for me that I saw that he was a real NFL prospect. Something that people didn't really expect coming into the season because of that D2 profile, smaller stature. I thought he was going to get that approval to come back for that extra season, but since that waiver got denied, there is still potential of him challenging that. But I think at this point, it's pretty likely that he will enter the NFL draft. I got to do a little more digging on the film on Chambliss because he is pretty exciting watching him play. And all it takes is one NFL team to fall in love with that profile, and he could be in the NFL as a starting quarterback early on. And in these Superflex leagues, that would absolutely push him up these boards.
Hope you guys enjoyed this 2-round Superflex rookie mock draft for the 2026 NFL Draft. If you like this type of content, we will be doing it all off season long. Not to mention regular NFL content as well. We're going to be diving deep into this draft class, breaking down every single prospect, more mock drafts like this every single week. So don't forget to subscribe for more stuff like that. Don't forget to comment who you think we missed, any players that we left off our list that you think should be on here. And don't forget to check out the rookie guide on our Patreon down in the description. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. That's all we got.